What if the affair wasn't the worst part, but the lies that came after it were? Today on the Couples Academy show, we're exposing the deception cube, 6 ways that cheaters keep you confused long enough after the affair. We're going to break down the truth in a comprehensive way that you may not have heard before. So stay tuned and let's get started. All right, we're talking about the deception cube. Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Hasani? Hey, before we get started, I just want to make sure that we let the people know it's important that you like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Number one, it's going to remind you of every show. And also, if you share, you're going to expose other people to this amazing information. We have a powerful topic to jump into today. So take it away, Hasani.
I'm excited because, as you know, we've taken a break and we're back to get into some comprehensive conversation that will impact the lives of people. Just a month ago, I released a brand new book called Moving Forward After Infidelity, from Discovery to Recovery. Thank you so much. And in here, we walk you through this comprehensive process to restore your relationship. And as you know, Danielle, when we're working with couples, one of the biggest issues that couples struggle with is really talking about this affair because people
Mhm.
want to run from it, people want to hide from it, and then some people want to hit it head on. And oftentimes there's a lot of deception that's a part of the conversations that people engage in. Are you there?
You went out for a moment. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you for a second.
So there's all types of deception that people are experiencing, and so we want to talk about that. Now, here's the reality. None of us are human lie detectors. Okay, so there's no way that we can absolutely know for sure if someone's being honest or not. However, we've been doing this long enough. We've been sitting in this seat long enough where we can kind of pick up cues and signs, and there's all types of indications that people give off when they are being deceptive.
Yeah, and I want to say this too about deception because, we demonize people for doing things, but everybody can be deceptive, and there's different reasons why different people are deceptive, right? Not to validate any of it, but sometimes people are just trying to cover up wounds. Other times people are dealing with shame and self-loathing, whatever the reason, or you're just out here cutting up in the streets and you're trying to hide your tracks. Either way, there are clues and signs if somebody is actually trying to fundamentally throw you off the path, throw you off the scent. So we're going to get into some of that today.
And so if you're the person being deceived, we're about to pull back the covers. And if you're the person who is deceiving, you're about to be set free. And I use the phrase set free intentionally
Yeah.
instead of being exposed, because exposed implies that there's something that we are doing to you or against you. Rather,
Hmm.
this is something that we're doing for you to help you break free from the very behavior that has been influencing you, that's been manipulating your partner, and been destroying your marriage. Okay, so
That's key. That's key to break free because a lot of people are literally held hostage to their own deception. They talk about the web of lies we weave literally will entangle your own feet and you'll be caught in your own trap or your own net. And that's so true because you're trying to cover and protect yourself, or a lot of times people have deceived themselves into believing that they're trying to protect others through their deception and through their betrayal, right? But at the end of the day, how many lies can you tell before you've lost track of the lies? Your life is overconsumed with deception. You no longer know the difference between the truth and the lie. And so this is a lot of times how it all comes spilling out anyway, right? You've lied so many times, you've done so many deceptive things that things are just not adding up. And so it's true. When you are led to a place of revelation and you're able to open up and let those things escape you, because all the lies you have, they're packed down on the inside of you, right? And you're just packing them down. You are deception. The more you lie,
mhm.
you become the deception. But when you open that thing up and let things go, it's interesting to just see how much relief comes upon the person that actually was the one who was being deceptive.
For sure. Now, let's
Mhm.
start by giving a comprehensive definition of what this actually is. Deception is the act of causing someone to believe something that is not true, typically done for personal gain or to avoid a negative consequence. Another way of saying it is it's the intentional creation of a false reality. That's a powerful definition because That is exactly what we do. Now, the reason why we want to unpack this is because there's many, many layers and of complexity to deception. The truth is simple. The truth is simple. It's either you're telling the truth or you're not. But when you're deceptive, there's many paths you can go down. And so what we first want to do is start off by really talking about some fundamental truths about deception, right? That may seem like a pun, right? That truths about deception, but there are some truths about deception, and we're going to begin to break this down.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier before we get into it, that none of us are human lie detectors, right? Even though some of us think that we are, and there are clues that we can gather and we can put things together, and we can be detectives in our homes and stuff like that, but none of us are really human lie detectors. But there are some fundamental truths, and we need to understand them as it relates to betrayal. So the first one is that betrayal doesn't stop when the affair is disclosed. It actually deepens because lies don't end when the affair comes to light. The lying typically intensifies. And I know that you want to break this down a little bit, but it is common sense, right? That if I am exposed now, if I'm not ready to be transparent and open it up, I'm going to start lying even more, covering up even more. Break that down a little bit, Hasani.
Well, the affair in itself is a secret, right? So it's a form of deception. You're giving a false impression to your partner that you're not doing anything, and you're covering up and you're hiding and you're covering your tracks. Then it's exposed. Once it's exposed, most people go into complete deniability. So when the question comes, are you having an affair or what's going on? Nothing, right? We typically do that. So the lying doesn't stop. It's not like a switch that we turn on to now tell the truth. We're trying to lie about what we've been lying about as long as the affair has existed. So the betrayal deepens because the intensity of the deception significantly increases so much more. All right.
Absolutely.
So let's go to the next one.
Number two is the ongoing deception is often more damaging than the affair itself. Right. And so that is facts. And I can't tell you how many times I hear this from wives that, it really wasn't the betrayal. It was the fact that even when I knew, you just continued to lie. Like it was, and it was more so the deception of it all. And the fact that you meticulously created a false narrative, a false reality, and did those things. That's more detrimental than the fact that you actually did the thing. It's the energy, the effort, the time, the master plan behind your deception that hurts the most.
Yeah, and a lot of times when people don't take responsibility and accountability for their affair, they'll blame situations, circumstances, God, the devil. They'll blame the affair partner, but yet they keep lying. So what happens is, okay, wait a minute. After all this time, you're continuing to hold on to a lie. You're protecting you. You're protecting the affair partner. You're protecting what you had. What hope does that give me about the future? If you're still protecting everything that you've done and don't want to reveal it, what does that say about your character, your integrity, and what I can begin to look forward to in the future? Because if you can get away with your lie because somehow I just believe it, where's the real change and transformation? So it's more damaging because I don't know who you are anymore. And because I don't know who you are, I now begin to question who you were. Not only do I question who you were, I question who we were, what we had. Now I begin to revisit the history of our relationship and begin to ask myself, was there any truth to any of it? So the ongoing deception really becomes, and I hear people say it all the time, what you did was horrible. But what hurts even more is that you continue to tell the lie and to deceive.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's so hurtful to know that this person, and this goes into number three, which is a lie is more than a statement. It was a strategy. It's a whole strategy. And so it's like, going back to what you're saying about questioning if I even know who this person is or who we are, it makes you question the foundation of everything from the very beginning. Did I ever know who this person was, or was I just completely bamboozled? Because this took strategy. You had to hide things from me. You had to plan things. You had to, create stories and scenarios. Sometimes people bring other people into it, bring friends into it. And so now you got my friends lying to me, people that I thought that I could trust. Now my whole community is in question. So it's such a huge piece, this deception. The part of the infidelity that is deception is the biggest and most painful part of it, because you might be able to rationalize, okay, hey, things weren't good between us, so this person did X, Y, and Z. I've heard people rationalize these things, like why someone was unfaithful or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you can rationalize it, but what is really hard to get a grip on is how somebody that you've known for so long, who you've shared your body with, bored children with, have a home with, share finances with, vacations, have friends and family, that this person could be so deceptive and so cunning that they created an entire strategy that kept you in the dark.
Now that is deep. That's deep, because that's beyond the, oh, I made a mistake. We try to minimize everything to, I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking. But the thought, as you just said, and the planning and the strategy, I mean, anything, the lengths that people will go to cover their tracks, it's very painful to the betrayed partner. And that really leads us into kind of unpacking how complex this thing really is. So let's go to the next fundamental truth.
Okay, so that is that deception is rarely one dimensional, right? It doesn't just come in the form of a lie. It has multiple angles, layers, and faces. It is a structure. In geometry, you have what is called the hexahedron. That's a hard thing to say, right? The three-sided dimensional object. Break that down, because I know you have some details to share with how one dimension can go into three dimensions to change the entire idea.
So once again, the lie is a structure, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me rephrase that. The deception is a structure, and one face of that deception is a lie. But we talk about the 6 ways that cheaters will keep you confused. So I want you to think about deception like a cube, okay? Now, in geometry, there's a shape called a hexahedron. I want to play a short little 10-second video. There's no audio to it, but I want you to read the capture at the bottom, because it's really going to explain exactly what this is and how deception works. Okay, so that's a hexahedron, right? The most recognized form of this hexahedron is a cube, 6 sides, right? Now, when you think about a cube, the most recognizable form of a cube are dice. Think about it. Dice, when you're playing games of chance, you always use dice. So whether you're playing Monopoly, whether you're playing Candyland or Yahtzee, I mean, there's an incalculable number of games. If you ever go to the casino, the most recognizable game would be craps. When you have the dice in your hand and you're rolling them down and give me 7, lucky 7, and it lands, right? So each roll brings about a new result. But interestingly, in the same way, in conversations when dealing with the affair, these conversations can feel very dicey. Why?
Yes.
Because it's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know what you're going to get. And so when you're having a conversation with the affair partner, one moment they may seem open, but then the next moment they shut down. Sometimes they say too little, but then sometimes they say too much. But what we do know is that the full truth is never told. And so there's careful management and manipulation of what they say, when they say it, how they say it, to avoid the pain and the confrontation and the responsibility. So this is the strategy that's in these
I hope that, the people that are listening get something from this, because, just watching how that square came together the way it did, and thinking about how, when you have this strategy, right, to deceive, that all the different faces that you have to show to keep things going. I mean, people, it is crazy making, to say the least, but you hear people talk about being gaslit all the time. So as soon as you point the finger at one side of that square, then they can just flip the square. And now they're showing you a different side. They might be charming. They might use charm as one of their faces of deception, right? And I'm going to charm you and talk to you a certain kind of way to make you forget it. Or they might use anger as one of the sides of that square, right? How dare you accuse me, whatever the case may be. Or, next thing you know, they're doing gift giving, or, using people. So it's like, as soon as you are getting close to the scent, the square or the cube just flips. And now it's like the goal keeps moving. The goalpost keeps moving every time you get close to trying to figure out what's going on. And that's why the frustration grows so great when it comes to deception, because I knew it. How many times have we heard that? I knew it, and I told you this 2 years ago, but you denied me the truth. You made me think I was crazy. You made my friends convinced me that I was crazy, right? And at the end of the day, it was a powerful, strong, deceptive strategy that kept throwing you off the scent for however long. And now you're super angry about that. And that takes center stage. Yeah, the affair happened, or whatever the betrayal was happened. We're going to get to that. But it's this deception. That's the part that hurts the most.
It does hurt the most, Danielle. And the thing about it is, when you get to one typical pattern, here comes something else. One strategy, one method, here comes something else, which
Yeah.
leaves you completely confused, because each face of this cube represents a way that the truth is twisted or delayed or withheld. And to be quite honest, all of these types of deception, and we haven't even gotten into them yet, we're about to, they're forms of emotional and psychological abuse. Okay. And oftentimes it involves manipulation, controlling, all types of things. Now, I want you to think about this emotional, psychological abuse. Now, if you're in a relationship and you experience physical abuse where somebody's physically beating you, it creates a wound. And usually that wound is very visible. There's visible evidence to support the claim of physical abuse. A person could have a cast, they could be on crutches. There may be band-aids, right? There may be a discoloration of the skin from a wound. There may be swollen parts of the body, whatever it may be. I can visually see the evidence of a person's abuse. And that person can be arrested, right? They can actually go to jail for causing physical harm on another person. But when it comes to deception, it is emotional or psychological abuse. And oftentimes, Danielle, this goes under the radar because there's no touchable, tangible, concrete, or real physical evidence to support the abuse. And this is what makes this just as damaging or even more damaging in a relationship.
Absolutely. And this is the part that this is why it's important to break down what those things are. What are these forms of deception? Because people may not even be aware. I think about conversations where we've talked about lies of omission, and the liar or the person who's done who had omitted the truth does not see it that way. It's just like, no, I did not tell you a lie. I just did not tell you. And so it's important for us to understand all these different forms for ourselves. First of all, if you're the one who is being deceptive, this show isn't just for the person that's hurt. It's also for the person who is hurting, to be able to recognize how it is that you're showing up in your relationships and the damage that you're doing and the potential damage that you're going to do and what you'll have to face in the future. And so being aware of and being able to own how you're showing up is actually key.
And
So
so,
do you want, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Before we get into those six, I once again, the cube of deception, it's like a dice. We're rolling dice. Now, for any of you who are familiar with ever going to a casino, maybe you've been to Vegas, maybe you've gone to Atlantic City, or wherever you live around the country, there may be casinos. And it's interesting, being in a relationship with a person who is lying to you or engaged in deception could feel kind of like a casino experience. Now imagine this. A casino experience, typically it's thrilling, it's seductive, and intentionally disorienting, right? The lights are bright, the music is upbeat, and there are no clocks on the walls, right? So you lose a track of time because they want to take your money. There's no natural light to ground you in reality. You're surrounded by the illusion of opportunity and the promise of reward. Everything in that space is engineered to keep you playing, to keep you believing, and to keep you what? Spending. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
odds always tilted in the house's favor, but the illusion is so powerful that you
Mm,
start believing that you are in control. And
mm,
oftentimes, that is exactly what it's like when you're dealing with someone who is deceptive, because
yes.
the house, as they say, the house typically wins. The
Yeah.
one who's controlling and manipulating and deceiving in the conversation usually has the advantage because they know how to flip it, they know how to work it, they know how to
Yeah.
avoid it, they know how to do all of these different things. And you leave empty, right? You leave with less than what you came with, oftentimes in these conversations.
Agreed. And I think that's why we keep rolling the dice, right? Because as you said before, it's a dicey situation. You're gambling. You know, they're saying this, and then you catch something that's off, and then they roll the dice again, and now you're flipped over and dealing with another side of this lie.
Mm.
And so you roll again, and you keep rolling again, and you're just taking your chances. You care about this person. You want to believe this person. You want to believe that they're a good person deep down inside, but something's just not adding up. And, you know, Emily is listening in, and she had a comment. She said, what if everything points to him cheating? He has all the characteristics of a cheater, but has never admitted it. And that's why it's important for you to be able to understand what's going on and be able to identify it for yourself. You're not always is he or she going to admit it. You know, oftentimes cheaters are caught. I mean, they're caught, right? And that's kind of how it comes out. Rarely do you have a cheater saying, you know what, I'm done with this cheating life. Let me just confess. You know, 90% of the time, or maybe even above that, you get caught. And so it's up to us to understand what we're looking at so that we know how to manage our decisions and so that we can confront the situation.
And let me just say, you also want to take your power back, right? Because if your destiny is determined by whether somebody admits it or not, you will always be enslaved to someone else's decision to tell the truth. And so this is what makes a spouse go crazy, because they're seeing all the physical evidence of it, but they're being convinced by their partner that your eyes are lying to you. And sometimes it's not until we hear them say it do we really believe it, when we have everything that shows that we know what the truth really is. And you have to be strong enough, bold enough, audacious enough to make decisions that are best for you, regardless of the betrayal that he continues to engage in by not honoring the truth.
Right. And Heather says truth is so much easier. And I could not agree with her more. It's just so much easier. You know, the level of stress. I wish there was a stress meter that we could attach to somebody who's just full of deception and lies, just to see how much stress that they're constantly living under. Just imagine. And we've heard all the stories. We've had encountered people who have literally 2 different families and households. I mean, can you imagine the level of deception that is required to be managing and hiding 2 different households, 2 completely different families, right? So, I mean, it is definitely a lot easier. So let's
one second.
Go ahead.
You don't have to remember the truth. You have to remember a lie. You have to remember what you said the last time. You have to remember. You have to do so much to conceal and to hide and all those different things. To tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may is just the easiest thing to do. So let's go through the 6 faces. There's 6 faces of this cube that you need to be aware of. And we're just going to give you a quick definition. And for the remainder of the series, each show will be dedicated to one face of this deception. Number 1, I'll read this: lies. That's the first face. It is the deliberate act of stating something false with the intent to mislead. That's the most common. Thank you. The most common form of deception that most of us are familiar with.
What lies, white lies, gray lies, black lies, brown lies. We give lies colors. That's how we justify lying, right? It was just a little white fairy tale fluffy lie. It was a lie. You know, call it what it is. It's a lie. Number 2, distortion of the truth, which is twisting or reshaping facts to alter how events are perceived without outrightly denying them. So distortion is a big one, you know, and this is something that I think creates a lot of arguments, right? Because I think it's one that you can catch easier, distorting the truth, right? It's just like, well, these are the facts, and now you're going to take this fact and twist it and reshape it to make you right or to make the situation right. That's a more easy one to notice.
For sure. Then number 3, the third face of deception on this cube would be concealment and withholding, right? Danielle just references it's intentionally hiding or refusing to share critical information to control what others know. So people will say, I wasn't lying. It's not like I lied to you. No, you didn't lie. You just concealed and withheld the truth, which is a form of deception. So what happens is we think that the lie is worse on a scale of severity than concealing or withholding the truth. But if it gives a false impression, then it's doing the damage nonetheless.
Mm. Number four would be diversion and evasion. So this is steering attention away from the real issue or giving vague, indirect responses to avoid accountability. And, this is something that you'd probably encounter a lot with a husband and wife that's maybe or arguing over, finances, or, arguing over parenting issues and things like that, calling you on the carpet about something that was done. And instead of just being honest about what you did, even though you may have agreed not to do it in the past, now you're kind of diverting the truth and evading direct answers, something like that. So that's probably a very common experience most couples have in their relationship.
I can't wait till we get into that one. Let's go to the next one. Number 5, false appearances, creating an outward image of honesty or normalcy that disguises a hidden reality. So we see this all the time. We take the snapshot, we post it on Facebook or Instagram, and it gives the impression that we're doing great. But the truth is, behind closed doors is a completely different reality, right? So you understand how we do that. All of us in society do that. Well, the same thing is done when it comes to an affair. And so we'll break this down comprehensively of how devious this can be to really throw you off and have you thinking that you're crazy. But false appearances is a huge form of deception.
And then the last one is emotional manipulation. And I think this is probably this is up there. This is a big one. It uses your emotions like guilt, fear, or anger to influence or control someone's thoughts, actions, or questions. And, a lot of times when you hear that being talked about, emotional manipulation, this is also in the same conversation with am I in a relationship with a narcissist, right? Because this is someone that uses your emotions, uses their emotions to literally manipulate and control you, right? To shame you or cause you to doubt yourself. This is that crazy making that happens. It's just like, I know what I know. Am I crazy? Causing you to question yourself or if your feelings are valid. And that's huge. And I can't wait to get into that one.
So guys, we're talking about the cube of deception. These were the 6 different ways cheaters will keep you confused. I want you to have a conversation with your spouse and really unpack it and really decide, okay, what phase have you experienced in the recovery process that you're going through? Stay tuned, because every single episode, we're going to comprehensively break this down and give you the keys to the breakthrough. Before we end, just a couple quick announcements. Danielle, explain to them what's coming up.
Hey guys, if you haven't heard about it already, the Phoenix Awards Gala is coming up and we already have our nominees. We are so excited to honor these amazing couples who have overcome some interesting, powerful, and complex circumstances in their lives. But we are honoring them at the Marriage Getaway, which is a phenomenal week. Couples are coming together to celebrate, to learn, to party, to grow. And then it's going to culminate with an amazing gala. So you get to dress up. You can still get tickets. Nominations are closed, but you can go to phoenixawardsgala.com, thephoenixawardsgala.com, and grab your tickets.
Also, really quickly, for those of you who've been watching us for years who say, I didn't know that you guys were counselors and coaches and work with couples. You do that. We're going to end the show by giving you a quick 30-second commercial of what it is that we do. And we want you to go to the website, couplesacademy.org, set up a discovery call. Let's see how we can serve you to get through the challenging times that you're going through. And also go on Amazon and pick up the book, Moving Forward After Infidelity. This series is covered actually in one of the chapters of the book. But until then, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.